Welcome to the end of our analysis of what are perhaps the most fascinating characters in the saga, the rivals. In the previous part, we already talked about, in my opinion, the worst or least interesting ones. And today, it's time to finish the job with some of the most incredible characters that have ever appeared on the channel. If you still haven't seen the first part, catch up through the card that's popping up somewhere up there right now. But if you're ready, accept the challenge. Barry, I never know what to call this kid, is a guy who, far from bringing something revolutionary as a rival, is extremely solid in every sense. Although, in reality, he does bring something new. Remember how in the early generations, the rival was always either ahead of you or behind you? Well, this is the first time where, in the same way that time and space move forward hand in hand, the rival advances alongside you. The game makes this very clear in a really smart way, varying depending on the moment of the adventure who has the upper hand over the other. Just like at the dawn of the universe, when a singular event caused space and time to begin expanding at the same time. You both start from the same point of origin, and an equally unexpected event makes you move forward together. Someone who is on the same level as the protagonist has to be very strong, and it's no coincidence that he's the rival and one of the characters overall who reaches the highest level in the entire saga. I don't know whether this is intentional or not, but it cracks me up that he's such a rushy, hyperactive guy in the generation that has the reputation of being the slowest one. It's wonderful, almost as if the game were parodying itself. In fact, they may very well have had that in mind, because it's hilarious that he catches a Munchlax and a Heracross, two of the hardest Pokemon to obtain, through a mechanic that already requires a ton of patience on its own, the honey trees. Although, if you think about it, it's not such a bad choice. I mean, the true final boss of the game blocks access to Sunyshore City, and someone like him, who can't stay still for even a second, totally fits with the idea of running all over the region, slathering honey everywhere. In fact, that Munchlax isn't even evolved, so maybe he had just caught it. He saw some strange clouds and bolted straight to Spear Pillar, arriving at the exact moment he comes to help you. Careful with the improvised theory I just came up with on the spot, because it's actually not bad at all. That said, we do have to admit it, his story isn't very interesting, to be honest. In that sense, it's below average. But the truth is, he doesn't really need it. He has charisma, he generates interest, he makes things very difficult for you, and he fulfills his role perfectly. Now, are all these compliments genuinely sincere, or am I just trying to get him to forgive my debt of 10 million Pokédollars? Alright, what can we say about this girl? I was quite critical of her at first, and she's another one of those characters who, in my opinion, has improved a lot. I have to admit that, well, you already know it, I'm very prone to making up movies in my head and then getting disappointed when they don't come true. But looking at it in perspective, I think I wasn't being fair to her. First of all, if we go by the most superficial thing, her theme is incredible. Seriously, I feel like it screams her personality. Where she comes from, what her goals are, and her reasons. And speaking of her personality, I loved it. She's serious, without becoming arrogant or unpleasant, as you might expect from someone with such an army of fans. Every time she appears, it's a very chill and pleasant moment. But if we focus on what really matters, her essence as a character, it may not be the one with the most incredible development in the world, but I think it's very well handled. Her story puts on the table very original and interesting things that we hadn't seen in the saga in this way. Like hope. We're tired of stories where the chosen one is the only one who can save the region, but having an ordinary girl unite the hopes of an entire town. Regular, everyday people who accept dressing up as a gang of hooligans to cheer her on is extremely sweet and resonates a lot with the central axis around which the game and the region revolve, putting all our trust in what we believe in when the moment of truth arrives, being heroes. knows. Roxy, in her humble story, is a true heroine who brings hope back to a town devastated and sunk into misery. Of course, her relationship with her brother is very sweet, and how even when she is defeated, she keeps fighting for her people. She even makes an effort to learn how to smile in front of the camera. Despite all that, I still see things that could be improved. I understand that you want to convey that idea of misery and hopelessness in the town of Speakmuth, but honestly, there was little need for it to look like an 80s arcade fighting game stage. It also would have been really nice if, after her commendable role in the league and Roxy becoming a star, the city improved a bit. I don't know, maybe some of those closed shutters reopening or some life coming back. There, once again, you can tell the game needed one more year of development. But overall, I think she's a very well-made rival who also fulfills her role quite well and puts different and very interesting things on the table. Keep striving, Roxy. We all support you. A warning. At this point in the ranking, don't pay too much attention to the exact positions. I've tried to order them in the best way possible, but from here on out, I love all of these characters, and except for the one that is non-negotiable for me, the rest could change depending on how I wake up that day. Gladion is another one who has been hit from all sides because of his revenge-driven attitude and edgy behavior. Cue the whole "he was a boy, she was a girl" vibe, but he is one of the most realistic characters in the entire Pokémon world. Finally, someone actually kicks you out when you barge into their house. Seriously. Yes, people have piled on the whole edgy thing with him, but that's exactly how you do this kind of character when there's a real foundation explaining why he behaves the way he does. Coherent actions, and honestly, who isn't edgy at that age? That just adds more realism. Most rivals are defined by pursuing individualistic goals, but this character is constantly sacrificing himself for those he cares about. Not just his partner Silvally, but his sister and even his mother, whom he tries to help in his own way, despite all the pain she has caused them. He's one of the few characters in the saga who doesn't want to be strong just for the sake of chasing that ideal, but rather to protect the people who matter to him. Sometimes in the saga, teams tell us things about their trainers. Pokémon that evolve through friendship usually suggest that someone doesn't have such bad intentions as they seem, or that they've learned to care and open their heart. I said usually. Well, not one, not two, but 3 of Gladion's 5 Pokémon evolve through friendship. On top of that, another one is a Pokémon that people turn their backs on because of what it represents. And well, the other one is edgy, plain and simple. I think it's pretty clear that despite his shell, he has a heart of gold. And in fact, How, the other rival of the generation, is similar, and it's in their dynamic that we find another very interesting trait. It's obvious that even though both of them are absolute sweethearts, they are opposites and at the same time complementary. They never stop reproaching each other, but at the same time, they respect and value one another. They learn from each other's way of seeing life. How has to learn that you need a purpose, a reason to do what you do. That training Pokémon is more than just having fun and doing whatever you feel like at any given moment. Gladion has to learn from How that you can't try to do everything on your own. Being strong also means trusting others when you need to. That life isn't only suffering and sacrifice, you also have to enjoy the people around you. On paper, Gladion and How are your rivals, but the truly important rivalry here is the one between the two of them. Something we have never seen again in the saga, and conceptually, it's pure gold. I already said in the previous part that as good as the idea is, How's final resolution is a bit disappointing. Whether his relationship with Gladion really made him grow is left a bit up in the air. He doesn't fully prove it through actions, and in the games where he does, it's through a single battle instead of a natural development throughout the story and his behavior. With Gladion, on the other hand, that change is much more evident, and that's why I place him so much higher. His attitude changes radically. He starts pursuing his own dreams, and he begins to behave in a much kinder way toward everyone else. We could spend a lot of time talking about this character's incredibly interesting relationship with Lily, Lusamine, Type, Null, Guzma, but at this point, I think it's clear that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. In Japanese, it's green and blue is the girl. But come on, look at what it says there. What does it say there? What? YouTube Rewind? Or what the hell? Dislikes were removed by the CEO of YouTube, so I can name the characters however I want without people coming to give me a headache. What does it matter? Besides, you can choose the name anyway. You could even call him LeBron James if you wanted to. It feels like I'm stalling with the whole name thing because I don't have much to say, but what am I even going to tell you about Blue at this point? Everyone has already talked about him. He's been talked about so much that even the New York Times has talked about him. Even today, with all the rivals who have stories that, in my opinion, are more than outstanding for the Pokémon average, he's still the king in the collective memory. The very paradigm of what a true rival is. Why? Simple. Even though he does have some development and evolution throughout the generations in which he appears, and it's clear that this isn't his strong point, which makes sense given the limitations of his generation. There's no one else like him in his role. No one else creates that sense of unease, that drive to get stronger for the next time you meet, that feeling of humiliation when he beats you, that sensation that no matter how much you beat him, he's still ahead of you, and that in the final battle, it's now or never. You've always been behind, and that will be your last chance to surpass him once and for all. The condescension with which he behaves at all times, the fact that when you arrive somewhere, he's already been there and done it. He's honestly the greatest pace setter in history, this guy. Even the Pokemon he uses are especially easy to envy. I was always furious about his trade-evolved Alakazam or his Arcanine in Leaf Green, and that's despite the fact that I did have friends to play Pokemon with. It's just that, well, poverty, and there wasn't enough money for the link cable. Now imagine in Japan, cradle of social maladjustment. How many kids must have seen those Pokemon as completely unattainable? The truth is that Sharon and Bianca, despite being your childhood friends and sharing the same starting point, could not be more different as characters. So why are they in the same position? Well, because precisely by being so opposite, they are in a way the same. What the game puts on the table with one and the other is equally valuable. Let's start with Bianca. In a world where parents don't even flinch when their 11-year-old kids leave home, her father is often accused of being overprotective. But honestly, I'd say he's the only normal or decent father in the entire universe. And if there was a generation in which to raise this issue, it was this one. The clash between the standard bearers of the two sides that divide the region, so powerful they could reduce the world to ashes, steals all the spotlight. But that philosophy, the idea that immovable and extreme positions lead to conflict, reaches even the smallest, most everyday corners of life, even living together with the people you love. A young girl watches as the friends she grew up with chase their dreams without looking back. They are sure of where they're going, and because of that, they evolve much faster than she does, while she is still sunk in doubt and confusion. On the other side, a father who sees the person he loves most constantly exposed to danger, clearly not prepared for what she's doing, as shown by her nervous behavior. Both have more than enough reasons to feel the way they do, but both are being very selfish by refusing to understand the other. The core philosophy of this generation. So, what does the game do to resolve this situation? Well, in what is a brilliant twist, it turns to a character like Alesa, the gym leader of Nimbasa City, a figure of consensus. This can easily go unnoticed, but it's incredibly well thought out. Throughout the entire game, gym leaders are portrayed as exactly that, neutral, balanced figures, not stuck in black or white, who understand that the key to peace and harmony in the region lies in the gray areas. That's been the gym leader's job throughout the entire saga, but only here do we truly see them perform that role properly. In this case, Alesa, who is an adult and has been through all of this, perfectly understands the father's concern. But at the same time, as someone who became a gym leader and the most admired top model in the world, she is also the living image of someone who dared to go after her dreams. After that moment, when both sides learn to give a little and be generous, Bianca finally takes off the backpack of worries and insecurities she had been carrying until then, and she truly begins to evolve. Reaching your same level, her attitude genuinely changes, and for the first time, she starts absorbing knowledge and finding her own identity. Now let's move on to Charon. This time, despite his apparent self-confidence, he also begins his journey empty of meaning. He limits himself to chasing an ideal without questioning anything or letting anyone question it. Being stronger is the only thing that matters. Sound familiar? It's basically what Pokémon games have always told us. Catch stronger creatures, beat the gyms, reach the top. This kid represents the spirit of the player. But then the champion arrives, who supposedly should embody that ideal of strength better than anyone else. And he is precisely the one who questions it. The one who knocks down Charon's house of cards, his entire belief system, so that from there he can seek the true fulfillment of a trainer. Nothing more and nothing less than purpose. Both Charon and Bianca still have a long road ahead of them. In the sequels, both are rookies in their new paths. One as a gym leader, the other as a professor's assistant. But they radiate enthusiasm. Both question foundations that until then had been sacred in the saga, and by doing so, the player can see themselves reflected in them and look for interpretations that no one would have considered before. They bring a unique point of view that joins the incredible mosaic that this generation forms. Here he is, another average Twitter user, angry at everything in life, but especially at you. He is, as you all know, the first and one of the very few cases in the saga where we see physical violence against the player. No Pokemon, no bullshit, I'll smash you. Clown, sure, yeah. Let's put the sick kid on the bullies team. What could possibly go wrong? But it doesn't end there. Silver is always there to challenge you or mock you at points in the adventure where you've achieved something, where you've done something meaningful, or are just about to make a significant step forward. A moment you should feel proud of. And there he is, trying to wipe that stupid smile off your face. His hatred runs really deep, and unlike most rivals, you didn't know each other beforehand to justify it. Or maybe you did? The moments when Silver appears also tend to be connected to Team Rocket, which, together with what we've seen elsewhere and inside content, gives us clues about a series of deeply rooted traumas within him. Traumas related to weakness, cowardice, and the dependence of those who need to band together to feel strong. His hatred runs really deep, and unlike most rivals, you didn't know each other beforehand to justify it. Or maybe you did? The moments when Silver appears also tend to be connected to Team Rocket, which, together with what we've seen elsewhere and inside content, gives us clues about a series of deeply rooted traumas within him. Traumas related to weakness, cowardice, and the dependence of those who need to band together to feel strong. That's why he hates Team Rocket. He hates weak Pokémon. He even blames his own Pokémon when you defeat him. He hates weakness in all its forms, and from that hatred is born a genuine desire for strength. Because that hatred is actually fear. Fear of what he feels deep down, that he himself is someone weak. And weakness can dress itself up however it wants, but in the end, it collapses under its own weight, just like his father did. For him, that was a betrayal by his greatest role model, all because of a kid 3 years ago who in some way behaved like you. After all, it was you, the player. Silver is another bastard of a rival, a bit more of a bastard than the rest, but in reality, with that attitude, he is confronting all his inner demons. What you, the player, represent, no matter which avatar you choose. In every encounter, every disappointment, every defeat, that's how he slowly starts winning that battle. And all of it happens through battles, which is what Pokémon is all about, right? It's all very pure. Maybe it's just me idealizing his fights because it was my first experience of this kind. But he's the rival who most strongly gives me that feeling of giving everything in every single battle. Seriously, I swear I don't do this on purpose? Or what do you think that I enjoy being insulted by literally everyone? There's nothing easier than tearing apart what everyone already hates. Then people cheer for you, pat you on the back. Everything is happiness. People subscribe to you, and candy rains from the sky. But something deep down in our conscience isn't right if we're not honest with ourselves. And that is precisely what Hop is about. What do you think, for example, of his theme? On the surface, one of the happiest and most upbeat tracks in the entire soundtrack, but in the chorus, it sounds quite introspective and sad. And you'll think, what are you talking about? Putting music into a #1 spot, you bastard. But I don't bring it up for no reason. I think it perfectly represents what this character is about. On the surface, Hop is a cheerful, energetic, affectionate person, the archetype of what rivals have been like in recent generations. That earned him a lot of criticism, but in this case, it's an attitude that complements the other two rivals very well. I can understand that when everything is smiles and happiness, it can become exhausting. But here, within the wide range of different personalities among your three rivals, it works. But beyond that, outwardly he brings nothing new: enthusiasm, happiness, and the overused goal of becoming champion, which, however, is nothing more than a mask. Even though the rival shares our goal of becoming the best, something sets him apart from what we had seen before: the nature of that desire. It's not ambition, revenge, self-improvement, or the pursuit of an ideal. It's fear. His brother is, as you all know, the champion, but not just any champion. The game insists on establishing him as the King of Kings, the undefeated, the invincible. Now put yourself in the shoes of the younger brother of someone like that. Growing up, watching all eyes turn toward his brother, and with no one expecting anything from him except someday to come close to that greatness. Throughout the game, Hop is not chasing his own dream, but someone else's dream, which naturally makes him the most emotionally insecure rival we've ever had. That happiness, that eternal smile, is a mask, a grimace that hides a dark reality, feeling empty, lost, and above all, fragile, because all his strength and his value system depend on the expectations of others. That fragility, which he learned to hide behind his smile, as expected, completely shatters when reality explodes in his face and someone crushes him in battle. It throws all his fears back at him and tells him he will never be like his brother. At that moment, the false confidence he had built around himself collapses like a house of cards. It's simply brutal how the game communicates all of this, once again, in the most elegant way possible for a Pokémon game, through pure battles and actions. In the following fights, he starts making changes that don't make much sense, trying to patch much deeper problems. It's no coincidence that he's the rival we see using the most different Pokémon. And who knows how many other combinations he tried that we never got to see. This goes so far that he sets aside and even rejects the Pokémon that had been with him since day one, because they remind him of that weakness he was trying to run away from. But he's not like others. He's not frivolous. He genuinely loved those partners, and that must be incredibly painful. And all of this holds until the end of the game. Even managing to make it to the end of the Champion Cup, it's still obvious that he's acting in his brother's shadow, without direction and without being himself, something the game shows very intelligently through nonverbal communication, which many people accuse of being recycled animations and whatever, but it's actually brilliant that they do it at that moment. But finally, when the moment of truth arrives, the moment of heroes, his redemption comes. At the climax, in the battle against Eternatus, he is chosen alongside you by one of the legendary heroes. A being who, even with its unimaginable strength, identifies with him, feels all those doubts, and that's how the two of you become the legend the game has been telling from the very beginning. An honor that not even his invincible brother has access to. It's at that moment that he understands that no matter what people say, no matter what their expectations of us are, it doesn't matter. We all have our own gift. Once again, when the moment of truth arrives, that's when he finally understands, and his life changes forever. The moment of heroes. I have to admit that the first time I saw him in a lab coat, it felt strange, even a bit forced. Now you want to be a professor? Since when are you interested in that? Or are you trying to steal your brother's girlfriend? I'm joking. But looking at it in perspective, it's the complete opposite. It's the most natural thing in the world. Think about it. For someone who has spent his life following other people's dreams, living behind a mask, what could be more real and enriching than trying things out? Experimenting? Living new experiences and learning from disciplines he never would have imagined? And do you know why I understood all this? Because I feel like it resonates deeply with me, and surely with many of you as well. How many of us have spent most of our lives following a script written by others? When we finally wake up, what our heart asks for is to change scenery, to live new experiences in search of our true self. Hop decides to start a new adventure as a Pokémon professor. He could have done anything else, and maybe that ends up being his passion, or maybe not. But by following that path, he discovers something else that truly excites him. What matters is being yourself at all times. All the characters we've talked about today are amazing and formidable rivals, from whom anyone willing to listen can draw very interesting interpretations. But Hop is the only Pokémon character who makes me feel proud of him.